Sean. So would it be best for you to keep the music going while we get Teresa on here?
Good afternoon. Good afternoon to all members of council and our special guests that are watching from the Zoom location, and of course to staff. Welcome to our very special meeting. This is a special electronic meeting, emergency electronic meeting of the town of Petawawa. I'd like to call the meeting to order. And in whatever way you are comfortable, I'll ask those who would join members of council for a moment of silent reflection, please. Thank you. I'll ask the CEO if roll call has been taken.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, all members of council are present.
Thank you very much. Just a very brief little statement. This, as I indicated, is a very historic meeting, and it's a historic meeting because of what we're going through, and that is, of course, this pandemic. I want to take this opportunity on behalf of council and our staff to recognize and say thank you to our community at large for adhering to the restrictions and the guidance from the province of Ontario, and in particular the Renfrew County District Health Unit under the guidance of Dr. Bob Cushman. I want to say thank you to his team and also to all of the first responders that are out there at this point in time, and to those folks that are helping us to get through this pandemic, the service stations, the grocery stores, and all of those people that are out there helping us to get through this. I have to say that this is not over by any stretch of the imagination, but I think it's fair to say on behalf of council that we're very pleased that the efforts that are being put through by our community and the sacrifices, and collectively we will get through this together. So on behalf of council to everyone, thank you for doing this. Approval of the agenda. I need a motion to approve the agenda of the May the 25th. Moved by Councillor Roots and second by Councillor Carmody. All in favor? It is carried. Disclosure of pecuniary interest. Does any member wish to disclose any pecuniary interest on any of the matters before us today? Having seen none, we'll go to the next item of the agenda, and that's the approval of the minutes that have been distributed. This was also a special meeting of council, and as you recall, that special meeting primarily was to put in place delegated authority to the mayor and the CAO. So you have a copy of it. Are there any errors or omissions to the minutes as distributed? Having seen none, I need a motion to accept the minutes, please. Councillor Sabaran, seconded by Deputy Mayor Service. All in favor? It's carried. With that, we'll go to bylaws. A bylaw to amend bylaw at 55009, a bylaw being the procedural bylaw of the corporation to allow emergency electronic meetings. This is the purpose of this bylaw, and because we're in the state of emergency, we're permitted to do this. And in order to do that, we have to change our procedural bylaw. With that, I need a motion of council to amend the bylaw, please. Councillor Roots, Councillor Carmody, any discussion on this? Then I'll call for the vote. All in favor? Opposed of any? I can't, you do that again. All in favor? Opposed of any? It's carried.
Bylaw 133820, being a bylaw to amend bylaw 55009, being the procedural bylaw of the corporation of the town of Petawawa. This constitutes first and second reading of bylaw 133820.
Again, we'll go to the third reading, and I need a motion, please, to move third reading. Councillor Sabran, second by Councillor McLean, that bylaw 133820 be read a third time and passed. Is there any discussion on this bylaw? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor? Opposed of any? It's carried.
Bylaw 133820, being a bylaw to amend bylaw 55009, being the procedural bylaw of the corporation of the town of Petawawa. This constitutes third and final reading of Bylaw 133820.
The next item is Bylaw 133920, a bylaw to establish the rates of taxation and charges for waste management services for the year 2020 be read a first and second time. All in favor? Oh, pardon me. I do need a mover and a second. Pardon me. I need a mover and a second. Pardon me. Councillor McLean, Councillor Carmody. All in favor? It's carried. Thank you.
Bylaw 133920, being a bylaw to establish the rates of taxation and charges for waste management services for the year 2020. This constitutes first and second reading of Bylaw 133920.
We'll go to Bylaw 133920. This is a bylaw to be read for the third time. I need a mover and a seconder, please. Councillor Sabran, Councillor Carmody. Any discussion? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor? Opposed of any? It's carried.
Bylaw 133920, being a bylaw to establish the rates of taxation and charges for waste management services for the year 2020. This constitutes third and final reading of Bylaw 133920.
We have another bylaw, Bylaw 134020, a bylaw to authorize the execution of an agreement with Richard Wharton, Venture Entertainment, with respect to management services Festival Hall. You read it first and second time. I need a motion, please. Mover and a seconder. Councillor Roots, seconded by Deputy Mayor Service. All in favor? Opposed of any? It's carried.
Bylaw 134020, being a bylaw to authorize the execution of an agreement with Richard Wharton, operating as Venture Entertainment, with respect to management services for Festival Hall. This constitutes first and second reading of Bylaw 134020.
This is Bylaw 134020 to be read a third time and passed. I need a motion, please. Mover and a seconder. Councillor McLean, seconded by Councillor Sabran. Is there any discussion on this third reading? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor? Opposed of any? Councillor Monger opposed to it? It's carried in any case. Thank you.
Bylaw 134020, being a bylaw to authorize the execution of an agreement with Richard Wharton, operating as Venture Entertainment, with respect to management services for Festival Hall. This constitutes third and final reading of Bylaw 134020.
We have another bylaw, Bylaw 134120, being a bylaw to authorize the execution of a subdivision agreement with the Laurentian Highlands Inc. and Harbour Edge Mortgage Investment Corporation be read a first and second time. Need a motion, mover and a seconder, please. Councillor Carmody, Councillor Roots. All in favor? It's carried. Nobody's opposed. We'll go to the third reading of the same bylaw.
Mr. Mayor, I'll do the first and second reading first.
Yeah.
Bylaw 134120, being a bylaw to authorize the execution of a subdivision agreement with Laurentian Highlands Inc. and Harbour Edge Mortgage Investment Corporation for Laurentian Highlands Phase 2C. This constitutes first and second reading of Bylaw 134120.
This is a little different when no one's in front of me. Oh, just a camera here. Bylaw 134120 be read a third time and passed. I need a motion, a mover and a seconder, please, for that. Deputy Mayor Service, seconded by Councillor Carmody. Discussion on the bylaw for third reading. Seeing no discussion, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor? Opposed of any? It's carried.
Bylaw 134120, being a bylaw to authorize the execution of a subdivision agreement with Laurentian Highlands Inc. and Harbour Edge Mortgage Investment Corporation for Laurentian Highlands Phase 2C. This constitutes third and final reading of Bylaw 134120.
Then we'll go to the next bylaw, which is 134220, being a bylaw to authorize the execution of a subdivision agreement with Alan Seamus, Laura Seamus, Jane Seamus, and Nancy Seamus, and the Toronto Dominion Bank be read a first and second time. I need a mover and a seconder, please. Councillor Sabran, seconded by Deputy Mayor Service. All in favour? Opposed of any? It's carried.
Bylaw 134220, being a bylaw to authorize the execution of a subdivision agreement with Alan Seamus, Laura Seamus, Jane Seamus, and Nancy Seamus, and the Toronto Dominion Bank for the Seamus subdivision. This constitutes first and second reading of Bylaw 134220.
For the third reading of Bylaw 134220, I need a mover and a seconder for that, please. Councillor Carmody, seconded by Councillor Roots. Is there any discussion with regards to this bylaw? Councillor Carmody, then Councillor Mullins. Councillor Carmody.
Thank you, Mayor Sweet. I would just like to say that of all the subdivisions that we've seen come through council in the past decade or so, this is certainly the one that has received the most extensive public input, has gone through extensive renovations, has been changed a number of times based on public input, and has seen the size of the subdivision significantly reduced by about a third in the number of lots. And it's been in the works for about 9 years now. And it's good to see this moving along at this point. And the one major concern that I have about this subdivision, though, is the potential for the development of the shoreline immediately adjacent to the subdivision. I think that as a municipality, we have to have an encroachment policy in place which will deal with potential issues with respect to that shoreline, which was currently undeveloped. It's naturally got a road right next to it, but the actual shoreline itself is in a reasonably natural state. And I would have a number of environmental concerns with respect to that shoreline, which I'm sure can be dealt with an effective encroachment policy. So I was just curious what our status is with respect to an encroachment policy and where we stand as a corporation moving forward with that.
Well, if I could answer that in response to that question, town staff have developed a draft encroachment policy, and the encroachments will be dealt with once the policy is officially in place. So at this point in time, they're working on it. It will come forward to council, and council will have an opportunity to review it, critique it at that point in time, and make whatever changes are necessary to handle that particular situation. I think that's something that we've all been concerned about on that particular part of the community. But I think this encroachment policy hopefully will go a long way to satisfy that situation. Councillor Mons and Councillor Sabran.
Yeah, my complaint picks up a little bit on what Councillor Carmody was talking about from an environmental point of view. And my concern is that there's a whole pile of old cars and everything laying around all through those different lots, and some old buildings and sheds and so on. And I want to see something in place that makes sure that gets all cleaned up before any building permits are issued. If we don't get on it before they get started, we'll never get it cleaned up, in my estimation. So I would like to make sure that there's something in place in the subdivision agreement that forces them to clean up what's there currently before we're allowed to issue building permits to them.
And in response to that, Councillor Mons, the subdivision agreement does require that a number of buildings and structures be removed from the site. Demolition permits as I understand it, have been issued for these works and must be completed prior to the registration of the agreement. So I think it's fair that the staff have been on top of this particular situation. It is contained, as I understand it, in the draft the subdivision agreement. And again, I as similar to the road situation, I think that we'd all want to see that cleaned up. And I don't disagree with what you're saying with regards to the situation down there. So I don't know if that helps you or not, but that is contained in the subdivision agreement.
Well, as long as it's in the agreement and we get it done before they get a building permit, I'm happy.
Yes, I think they're anxious to move forward with the building permit situation, but that's a condition of the subdivision agreement before they get a building permit. I think staff have been adequately firm on that particular situation and moving forward with it. So let's hope that'll take place. Councillor Sabran.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just wanted to thank the Shamus family for their perseverance, as well as to the staff team for all their work over these past 8, almost 9 years. Certainly, I echo the concerns brought forward by our previous 2 council members in that I think that it will rest with the building department as well as our director of planning and development to enforce those conditions and to make sure that they are in fact agreed to, and not only they've been agreed to, but to enforce them prior to that. And I know that I certainly have confidence in those offices to make that happen. So thank you.
Thank you. Before I call for the vote on this third reading, is there any other comments or concerns with the bylaw? Having seen none, then I'll call for the vote. All in favor? Third reading. Opposed? It's carried.
Bylaw 134220, being a bylaw to authorize the execution of a subdivision agreement with Alan Shamus, Laura Shamus, Jane Shamus, and Nancy Shamus, and Toronto Dominion Bank for the Shamus subdivision. This constitutes third and final reading of Bylaw 134220.
We'll go to the correspondence item of the agenda. The item that we have is the Pembroke and Area Airport Commission 2020 budget. And there is a motion here that Council approves the Town of Petawawa portion of the Pembroke and Area Airport Commission 2020 budget in the amount of $26,777.65. Councillor Mons, did you wish to speak to this?
I think it's pretty well self-explanatory with the information that was handed out. It follows pretty well the protocol of a 5% increase, which is normally what we have at the airport, which was, I think, part of an agreement that was put in place by the municipalities years ago, whereby they can go up to 5% a year with 75% of the municipalities in agreement. So we're right on that target, and I think we budgeted for this amount in our 2020 budget. So I think we're right on target at this point.
Thank you, thank you, Councillor. Any questions from members of council with regards to the airport budget? Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a question for Tom or Murray about the budget. It was drawn up before the pandemic began. I guess the pandemic may have affected the amount of revenue that's being brought in by the airport in terms of fuel sales. So does this require the budget to be adjusted, or is it just going to remain the same?
Councillor Mons.
I'll attempt to answer that, Gary. As far as we're concerned right now, we haven't heard anything from the Airport Commission or the operators out there. As far as I'm aware, like I said earlier, I think the budget stands the way it is. They'll just have to tighten their belts and do whatever they have to in order to make it work.
Thank you. Councillor Sabran.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Tom, thank you very much for that feedback with respect to the 5%. But certainly, given these times and the fact that within the town, our own budget, We have asked our staff teams not to exceed 3%. I certainly would like perhaps our view to be taken back that we would like to see the airport see what they can do within a 3% increment or somewhat similar to that, particularly, like I said, given the financial realities that we're all forced to deal with. And I would like to see them, instead of going towards the maximum of 5%, seeing what they could do within the 3% or the 2%, whatever it is that remains consistent within municipalities. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Further on the budget. Who moved that? Nobody has moved that yet? Okay, so no one's moved or seconded that, so I need a mover and a second to accept the budget. There's no further discussion. Councillor Mons, Councillor Roots. No further discussion? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favour? Opposed of any? It's carried. They're into staff reports. So the first is PW 09-2020. David, did you want to speak to this, please?
Yes, Mr. Mayor. So as council recalls, during the budget process, one of the projects that we agreed to proceed with was the completion of Golf Course Road, and that was in cooperation with the Township of Laurentian Valley. So since the budget, Township of Laurentian Valley has talked to the residents, and there's a letter attached, and their request is to connect to the town's municipal water system. So the current system there is that the water goes down Golf Course Road and goes as far as Fairway Drive. And so since we are doing complete reconstruction of Golf Course Road, it's a perfect opportunity for Laurentian Valley, if they so wish to, connect to the water system. And so they've talked to the residents, as I noted, and the letter is attached, and they would like to proceed with that option. So the connection would be at total cost of the Township of Laurentian Valley. Our billing of them for the water would go directly to the Township of Laurentian Valley, and then they would bill their residents. The other thing that would have to happen is that there would have to be a legal agreement between the Township of Laurentian Valley and the town of Petawawa, laying out the charges. If there's any repair that is required, that it would be our operations group that would be doing those repairs, and those any associated costs would then be borne by the Township of Laurentian Valley. So you know, an agreement that would handle all those additional costs. And you know, since we are the owner and operator of the system. So again, no cost to the town. It's a good opportunity. There's just a couple steps that have to be done with the agreement. Open up to any questions.
So just for clarity's sake, so that council knows this, David, this is coming forward as a provisional item on the airport, or pardon me, the Golf Course Road tender. Is that correct?
Yeah, it's in there as a provisional item, so it can be. It's not part of the tender as such. That the main part of the tender. It's a provisional item, and so it can be added or deleted at the township and the town's discretion.
Sure. Okay. Thank you for that. Any questions from council with regards to this particular situation? Councillor Mons. Councillor Mons.
David, what rate would we be charging them for the water that we would be providing? Have you determined that yet?
My understanding, and again, it could be corrected by the CEO or the treasurer, but it would be the flat rate residential, I believe.
I think Councillor Mons, that's all part and parcel of any agreement that has to be put in place as to what that would be, and I think council would have the opportunity to see that agreement once it's in place. That's certainly one of the options that's available. What other one, I don't know at this point in time, but I think that's a little bit that has to be worked out in terms of the flat rate or whatever council might feel comfortable with at this point in time. But I think that can all be contained within the agreement. Other
It's
questions?
just that some of that water we may be getting through the Pembroke line that's coming through, and we're paying them at a higher rate. So we want to make sure that it's not costing us any money. That's
Sure.
all.
No, I understand the concern that you're having with that. I don't disagree with you there. So as I say, I mean, there's more than a little bit of work to be done. I think what I think we're probably looking at is an agreement, maybe in principle, in this particular situation, with the proviso that there's a lot of work to be put into an agreement to satisfy the town of Petawawa as far as all of the issues that are there, the legal issues, the contamination, a broken water line or a frozen line or whatever it might be. I think that's all got to be detailed clearly in any legal agreement that we enter into. So a lot of work to be done with regards to the agreement. The agreement will be the item or the document that will direct us, and this should council give the green light to take a look at this and move it forward. It's certainly not etched in stone. There's two motions in front of me. One to move forward and get staff to work with the Laurentian Valley. The other one is just simply to deny it. So there's two options there. It would be a shame not to help someone out if they've got an issue there, but a lot to be worked out nonetheless as far as the details are concerned. Other concerns or questions with regards to that? Councillor Mons again.
I will move that we go ahead and start negotiations with Laurentian Valley.
Okay, because the resolution is asking for direction from council. So you're in favor of moving it forward to further and further agreement to help out the folks down there. It's an opportune time, as David has said, when you've got the road all up to put any services in there from the main line, as I understand it, to directly to the home. So Tom has moved that. Is there a Councillor Roots, you wish to second that?
I would, Mr. Mayor. Yes, I would like to second that.
Okay, so there's a motion on the floor then, and I'll read what the motion is, and you can deal with it if you want. That Council of the Corporation of the Town of Petawawa hereby approves the request from the Township of Laurentian Valley to connect the township's residents on Golf Course Road to the town's water supply during the reconstruction of Golf Course Road, and that the Township of Laurentian Valley will be 100% financially responsible for any increased cost to install the water service connection in conjunction with the shared tender between the town of Petawawa and the Township of Laurentian Valley. That the Treasurer is hereby authorized to bill the Township of the Laurentian Valley directly for the residential water rate from each Laurentian Valley resident connected to the town's water network on an annual basis. That is the motion that's in front of us. You're comfortable with that, Councillor Mons?
I am.
Councillor Roots as a seconder?
Yes, I am, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you very much. Any discussion on this? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor? Opposed of any? It's carried. The next item is the budget transfers from the reserves and reserve funds be amended as follows. The development charges of sewage was $190,000 plus going down to $142,000. Wastewater treatment plant expansion. David or Annette, did either one of you wish to explain this to council before I ask for a resolution? It's amending it down from what it was, and I believe the money has already been spent, or money being spent. The facilities have already been repaired in 2019. This is just correcting the amount that was coming out of the development charges. But I'll leave it to either the treasurer or David to explain to council.
Yes, I can speak in regards to this report. So basically, yes, now that we have all the final figures in, we had put in the budget for the $190,527 to come out of the development charges for wastewater treatment plant expansion. Based on the actual cost that came in, and this is in regards to the work that was done, clarifier work. There was some also some capital work completed by Aqua in regards to the PLC system upgrades, the controller, and the headworks. Based on the actual expenditures in 2019, this amount has to be adjusted down to $142,488.96.
Okay. Any questions for Annette on that? And I need a motion to move this. Mover and a seconder, please. Deputy Mayor, Councillor Carmody. No discussion. I'll call for the vote. All in favor? Opposed of any? It's carried. Just very briefly, I know we haven't been meeting a lot, but perhaps there are some members of council have been going to various meetings that are out there. So I'll not go around the table necessarily on a format that we use, but I'll just ask if there are any councillors that wish to speak to us about anything that they've been doing in the last 6 to 8 weeks since we haven't been meeting as a council. Councillor Sabran.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I would just like to let members of council know that the PBAN had a Zoom meeting about 2 weeks ago, and all members were in attendance. Business was conducted, and I am very appreciative of all the work that Christine Mitchell has been doing in connecting with businesses and trying to leverage any opportunities available to them during this pandemic. She's been flowing government information in terms of supports and whatnot to and from them, as well as different other kinds of information to support them, and is doing her part. And so I thank the businesses again for their perseverance and certainly all of their work that they've been doing during this pandemic. And certainly I hope to see us out of this soon, but it was a very successful meeting, and yeah, that's all I wanted to let you know. Thank you.
Thank you. Further from any member of council. Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We had a Zoom meeting with the library board to plan the reopening of the Petawawa Public Library, which is set to take place later this week. The employees are all really happy to be back in there, and they're going to offer some curbside pickup where patrons of the library can phone in their orders and then indicate when they're going to be there, and the library employees will come and bring it out to the parking lot and put it on a table for their pickup. So the library is excited to be offering some form of service with all that's going on around us. And I'd just like to thank all the residents of Petawawa. We seem to be doing a good job of social distancing and helping to stop spread the coronavirus.
Thank you. Councillor Mones.
I'd just like to report that we had a Zoom meeting with the Ottawa Valley Waste Recovery Center on April the 29th. Our financial auditors presented the budget audited statements, which was approved. There was no findings, which was good. Everything else pretty well is business as usual. They're very busy out there. They're keeping the self-distancing as far as staff is concerned. So they've managed to stay open and continue on with the service. We did have to cancel environmental days that we had planned earlier. But this week is the large item pickup. So you'll see the streets will be kind of a mess right now, but hopefully by the end of the week, things will be all cleaned up. And we're just asking people to be careful. I know there's a lot of people that are going around picking through the stuff that's on the side of the road. And please be aware of the COVID-19 situation and dealing with stuff along the side of the road. People are coming, picking through it. leaving it, picking it up, taking it. So once again, just ask people to be very careful of what they're up to. Thank you.
Thank you, Father. Councillor Roots.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and Council. It was good to be a part of the RFP for the Festival Hall manager and the contract for Adventure Entertainment, Rick Wharton. As we all know, Rick has done a great job at the facility for us. The contract period, as mentioned, was a 5-year with no additional cost to the 3 municipal partners. And the current contract expires this June 30th. And we will be asking also, like I mentioned, we thank everyone for their support at all municipal partners. Just an update also from community policing. We will hope to be doing something later on this year with the youth. I'm getting many calls about that as they have some time at home, I guess. And we're going to work on something for that. Also, talking about the airport commission during the COVID-19, the airport did remain open and it's still open with 24-hour essential services with minimal traffic and with staff on call to handle any issues and concerns. I've been helping out at the local food bank and assisting with some home shopping for isolated people and residents of the town. On Tuesday, May 20th, I connected to the Global First Power Conference Town Hall as they hosted an information session and on energy solutions for Canada, promoting their modular reactors and maybe with the hope of having a possible small modular reactor at the Chalk River site. And also I want to echo the other council and mayor thanking the town staff and local business owners and residents for a job well done during this COVID-19 crisis. We're always here looking out for each other and keeping each other safe. We also had some local town fires, and I want to commend the whole fire department for doing a good job and a great response time. Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Roots. Father. Well, for my part, one of the most important things that I'm doing is at the County of Renfrew. I'm a member of the Economic Recovery Task Force, along with the warden and about 18 different members, a fair cross-section of our community who are working to put together some packages so that we can get those who are laid off as a result of the pandemic back to work. We're trying very hard to try and get all of the money that's out there that's been talked about, and in particular on the construction side of things. When you put everything together in all 18, 19 municipalities, there's close to $120 million worth of construction projects in the hopper ready to go. The buzzword now, to be honest with you, is not shovel ready, it's shovel worthy. This is to deal with the economic environment out there and the green situation. So that is what the projects they're looking at right now. So if we could get that up and running, that would be in excess of $100 million. That would kickstart the construction work and get that going. On the other side of the page, we'll be coming forward with some funding, hopefully from the County of Renfrew, to kickstart other industries like tourism industry and the retail industry, and there'll be some programs that we're putting in place with regards to that. So they're working very hard. I've had 3 or 4 meetings at this point in time with that team to try and develop strategies moving forward to try and kickstart the economy when it's safe to do so. And that is the big issue, when it's safe to do so. And we'll take our guidance from the health unit and from the province of Ontario. I want to say thank you to the garrison for the flyby that they did. I think that was a nice move on their part, flying by and thanking the first responders that have worked very, very hard to test some 5,000 or so in the county of Renfrew, and to those who have been positive. I hope they all get back on their feet as quickly as possible. We've been very fortunate with that. And I always wrap up these little sayings that I don't feel stuck at home. I feel safe at home. And the pandemic is far from over. And the washing of the hands, the social distance, the wearing of the mask, And as I said, we can't let our foot off the gas and be complacent. We're far from underneath this particular situation. So to the town, once again, I think you've done an excellent job, but we have to stay the course to make sure that none of us get sick the way that they have in other parts of the world. So again, thank you to the county, and thank you for staff and the patience and understanding that they've been showing when we are doing what we have to do to keep our community safe. So this has been an interesting experiment, this particular, I don't know what your thoughts are, but I know Dan's just absolutely delighted with this. He keeps his cool and he's got everything under control. I'll talk to you about that later. But with that, we have a confirming bylaw that has got to be read a first, second, and third time. In order to do that, I need a motion, please. I'm moving a seconder. Councillor Roots, Councillor Carmody, all in favor? It's carried.